Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. So we will have a new hero announced at Blizzcon in just over 2 weeks. Now in this video, I'm not too interested in who this hero could be, but we're going to be talking about that some other time. But more will be going over why Hero 29, in my opinion, will need these 5 things for Overwatch to be in a healthier position, because let's face it, whilst the newest heroes we've had in the game have been innovative and fun to play, they have also caused some big issues in the game. So here are the 5 things that Hero 29 needs to be. It could be all 5 of them or just one and I'd be happy. They're not mutually exclusive or inclusive, but let's go over them. The first thing is a main tank. This is probably the obvious one that most of you would agree with, and it's specifically a main tank, not an off tank like D.Va or Zarya, or even like a Hammond pseudo main tank weird thing going on there. Hammond's addition felt like Blizzard were trying to move away and vary up how tanks work, so they aren't just clear-cut main tanks or off tanks, because Hammond wasn't really either. And whilst I do respect and like that there is this bridge between the two, I feel like, especially in the meta that we were in, that it forced main tanks more, and it enabled Reinhardt to be the staple main tank pick that he is. And his pick rate is still the highest in the game because really there's no other real options to contest him. This isn't the first time that Reinhardt has been a must pick as the main tank role, but I felt that Blizzard's response last time to Reinhardt being a solid pick was to find ways to counter him like a Brigitte or other forms of CC. But this hasn't really reduced his pick rate in competitive, but more made a main tank's life a living hell. And if you don't have a Reinhardt and the enemy do, on some maps and in some comps, not always, it already feels like it's a GG. Instead of trying to go against what Reinhardt is and represents in the game, make something that can do the same job in a very different style. Orisa was kind of that, but it didn't work in a lot of senses. She isn't dynamic enough, she can't move her shield. So I'd say that the shield has to move with the character like Reinhardt. It needs to block damage for its team, and it needs to be able to compete with Ryan's high pick rate without completely removing him from the picture. And also not just replacing him in a lot of lineups, we'll get onto that in a second. I've seen a lot of people also say that we need a new support or DPS in that game, and I completely disagree. We have 6 very competitive healer options, and I am including Mercy in there because she is still pretty good. There are 15 DPS heroes, out of which I'd say that 11 are competitive. And yes, there are 7 tanks that all are pretty good, maybe apart from Roadhog, but there are 3 main tanks and one is infinitely better than all of the other options. I do think the Hammond's role in the game is to bridge that gap between off tank and main tank, and I'd say that it's worked in one sense, but in the other it just meant that Reinhardt was top dog with nobody really competing with him, whilst he also gets his ass kicked by CC. He almost feels like a necessary evil to have on your team, much like Mercy was in the Mercy meta, and we all know how that went. Number 2 is anti-CC. This could mean one or two things. Number 1, it has a passive or ability that makes it less susceptible to CC. I think making a hero that would be a complete counter to CC by not being stunned at all would mean that hero would become a must pick, so it has to be passive or ability, but something that was a bit better than Fortify for Orisa. On number 2, simply put, that hero doesn't have any form of CC itself. 5 out of the 6 heroes since launch have had a form of CC. Sombra with the hack, Orisa with the halt, Doomfist with basically everything, Brigitte with a shield bash, and Hammond with the pile driver. It'd be nice to have a hero in the game that doesn't bring them something that makes other heroes go stun, but it is more trying to work out that balance. However they do it, this hero needs to address the huge amount of crowd control abilities in the game, and hopefully has an answer to them. Number 3 is a skill-based hero. Whilst this isn't a controversial point in itself, it could very well be if I say this wrong. Blizzard has a real problem right now with skill-based heroes. Doomfist and Sombra require a lot of skill to play and can be very impactful if you're good. Issue is that it's not really fun to play into because again of the CC. You then had stuff like a Mercy meta before and now a bit of a Brigitte meta of sorts, with both heroes having high impact but a low skill floor, so it becomes imbalanced. Say what you want about the dive meta, but it had heroes in it where you got out what you put in. Trace and Genji had high impact of course, but even tanks like Winston had that huge impact if you had the skill and knowledge to utilise it. It's not so much that this hero has to be hard to play, it needs to find that balance of being effective but also difficult to master. Hammond, for example, was a high skill hero that requires a lot of skill and knowledge to learn him, but the impact that he has in this meta at least just really isn't there to make him worth it. Anna is a perfect example of that. She's the best hero in the game right now because she's tough to learn and master and really fun to learn, and once you get good at her, she'll be one hell of a pick for your team, and that is a really good feeling to play in Overwatch. Hero 29 I hope will counter GOATs. If Hero 29 say is a main tank like Reinhardt and suddenly becomes a hero that is used in GOATs comp, you know, taking the Reinhardt out and putting Hero 29 in, then it's a huge failure on Blizzard's part. This composition right now isn't going anywhere and you can't just nerf Brigitte to the ground to disable it. But I think it does highlight a bigger issue for Overwatch. Instead of meta's been based around particular hero comps and certain styles, it becomes two really basic ones, either a tank comp like triple quad tank or GOATs, or dive with its derivative. This hero needs to break that wheel. Instead of going from tank comps to dive comps in a general sense of a meta, it needs to stop GOATs but also enable a new meta generation of playstyles, instead of being run all tanks or run all mobility heroes. And now that we have a good form of balance in the game with a lot of heroes being able to be picked, I think Hero 29 needs to spearhead the start of something new in the Overwatch meta. It's a big ask, but for the most part I just want to see GOATs countered by a new main tank that isn't going to just get rolled by them. And finally, number 5, it cannot be niche. Hammond was a niche hero, and whilst he is one of my favourite heroes to play, I don't get the chance to play him a lot, and that really sucks when Reinhardt, for example, is going to be pretty much decent all of the time. Blizzard have done a really good job with balancing those niche heroes like Mei, Torbjorn and Symmetra in Overwatch, but for Hero 29 I'd like to see them be a decent pick at least for almost all maps. I want to see him countered, sure, but I want to have a main tank in the game that can be played pretty much all the time instead of being dependent on certain maps or certain comps. Just something that could be played all the time without people having an issue with it. Moira is a really good example of that. She can be practically played anywhere, yet nobody really bothers to pick up on it. If Hero 29 can master that aspect, especially as a main tank, then I think we'll have a good hero on our hands, and I think the game will be better because of it. But there are 5 things that I really want to see out of Hero 29, hell, almost need to see out of this hero. But do let us know what you think in the comments below, whether you want to see a new support, whether you agree or disagree with certain points. Let us know in the comments below, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, take care, we'll see you then.